Yeah, just a very quick hello from me. As I said, I'm Hanna, working for Tutanota. I'm mostly doing communications, but sometimes I also help out in support. So you might actually have had an email from me if you are a Tutanota user. Of course, others are joining us today as well, which is really nice and interesting. And the topic of today's webinar is why encryption matters and how we can safeguard our data in times of quantum computers. So the main question here is, can we outrun quantum computers? Can we be better than them? And Vitor will give you an update on that. I'm pretty excited. Yeah, Vitor, why don't you just quickly say who you are and what you are doing at Tutanota?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Vitor. I have been a part of the Tutanota team since 2019. So I joined shortly before COVID hit, a few months before.
Feels like forever.
Feels like
Ages ago.
forever. Yeah. And I joined specifically to work on the PQ Mail project, which is Tutanota's projects to implement quantum safe algorithms into email communications. Yeah, and I've been working on that ever since. I also do some other things on Tutanota, like working mostly on the back end. Yeah, so that's me.
Yep. Yep. Thanks, Vitor. Yeah, and to give you a little overview of what's going to happen today. So first of all, I will give a little lightning speech on why encryption matters. I'm sure most of you are very interested in this topic anyway. But just to get us off lightly before we start the technical part. And then the technical part will be, of course, mainly Vitor's part on PQ Mail. He mentioned it already, our post-quantum secure encryption project for Tutanota, and also details on quantum computers in general and how we can update the encryption to make it quantum secure. And for that, we want to ask Vitor lots of questions. So if you have questions, you can already put them in the Q&A, and we will then later in the webinar hopefully be able to answer all your questions. I have also prepared some questions because I'm not such a technical person, so I'm also always very interested. And now that I got Vitor here, I will I will finally learn everything I ever wanted to learn about PQMail, which is pretty amazing. Everything. Yeah, and as I said, I will start off lightly asking, why does encryption matter? And the reason we are talking about this today is, of course, because tomorrow is Global Encryption Day, but also this topic is so pressuring because we always hear politicians asking for backdoors to fight terrorism, to fight child sexual abuse. And while the reasons they want backdoors are understandable, the method is not the right way, because just by monitoring everybody, every citizen, is not a right balance to fight crimes. So what we are actually of the opinion that we need the opposite, strong encryption, also in the future, also when quantum computers come. But why is that? Why is it so important that we have strong encryption? And one main part that I recently saw, I think Bruce Schneier said it in some talk, and he said that the reason why we need strong encryption and strong security is that we live in one world, so we need one answer. Today, many people think, but in the past it was possible. In the Cold War, it was possible for the West to spy on the East and for the East to spy on the West. And it was possible because back then people used different systems, different technologies, different radios. So the West could invest heavily into spying tools to break the encryption of the East, to spy on their data and still also keep their own data, their own systems secure. That was possible up to 30, 40 years ago. But today, we live in a very different world. So as you know, we all use the same internet, we use the same websites, we use the same devices. And today, it is much more difficult, or no, it is impossible, because one word, one answer. It is impossible to spy on one device and not also spy on all the other devices. So we can either design this for security or we can design it for surveillance. And that's the question we as a society have to ask ourselves. Do we want to break encryption? Do we want to break security? Because then no one has security. And everyone could spy. It is just so difficult, so dangerous to allow this option, such an option, because we also have to keep in mind who uses these devices, who uses this technology. This is every police officer, every politician, every judge, every CEO, you and me. We all want to keep our data secure, and we must keep our data secure. Also journalists, political activists, everyone uses the same technology. So it's just not possible to break this technology to monitor some criminals, because in the end, everybody will be tracked, everybody will be monitored. So when politicians ask for backdoors, of course, they don't say backdoors. They say something like lawful access or client-side scanning to make it sound less harmful. But remember, it's a backdoor and we must never allow it. And this brings us back to the topic today, because for the same reason, we need quantum secure encryption, because we all know at some point quantum computers will become a reality. And then the data that we have encrypted today is at risk, is at threat. Yeah, and this is where we start the Q&A. As I said before, you can put your questions into the Q&A already. I'm really excited to hear your questions on this topic. But first of all, I want to start with my 2 or 3 questions, maybe. Let's see how many we'll get from the audience. So Vitor, what's your opinion? Why do we need quantum secure encryption already now?
Yeah, well, provided that there is no quantum computer that currently can break encryption like in the real world, right? We do have some quantum computers, but they are just research projects and they're not really working on real world data. So why bother? So let's imagine a scenario where Alice and Bob want to exchange secret messages, and they need to do that over an untrusted network. And there is somebody, Eve, that wants to read those messages. She's very interested in those messages. So Alice and Bob decide to use encryption. Of course, that's the obvious choice. And since they cannot meet to share a secret key, they decide to use public key encryption. That's all right. And let's say they choose, for example, RSA. And with that, they can exchange their messages confidentially, meaning Eve cannot read those messages, even though Eve has access to that network and can intercept the messages and see the encrypted messages. She cannot decrypt and read them and have access to their contents. However, Eve is very interested in those messages, as I said, and so she decides to save those messages for later, because maybe someday she'll be able to get one of the keys that she needs to read those messages, or maybe she gets a tool that will allow her to break that encryption. And that tool is a quantum computer, like a large scale general purpose quantum computer. And so the question is, like, how long do we have until that becomes a reality? So that messages, is the quantum computer going to be around in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? We don't know. And we do know that there are bad actors right now saving messages that they hope to read later. And they have huge storing capacity. And as soon as they get their hands on an actual useful quantum computer, they'll be able to read those messages. And what the consequences of that will be, your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah.
But,
So let me try to put this into perspective, for myself, for instance. If I exchange messages with you and I want to keep them private because, I don't know, we're having an affair maybe, who knows, then it would probably not be at risk today because, I don't know, the NSA or the BND would not be interested in these kind of messages. So for us, it probably wouldn't be an issue. But if, let's say, you're a political activist in Syria or Iran or in Russia even, would it be important for them to already have quantum secure encryption?
yes, of course, because it is very likely or imaginable that they will still be a political activist in 5-10 years, and they will still be a high-level target. So as soon as those big intelligence services get their hands on the tools they need to break that encryption, all those communications that person had with their sources, maybe their contacts, people who were helping them in their political activism. Yeah, all that is going to be exposed, and that is a huge risk.
Yeah. That's pretty how scary, actually. But back to the technological thing. So could you quickly introduce PQMail? You already mentioned in our quantum secure encryption protocol. What is this about? What is the status of this project?
Yeah, right. So PQMail is a project by Tutanota to introduce quantum safe algorithms to email communications. So what we are doing actually is adapting a very well-established communications protocol, which is Signal.
Is it Signal, the chat app?
Signal, the chat app.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
They have their own protocol that they developed, and that is now being used by a number of different communications apps. Like WhatsApp uses that same protocol, and I don't know, Wire, several others. And it's a very well-known, well-studied, and well-established protocol. And but that protocol uses classical algorithms, and the public key part of that is vulnerable to quantum computers, right? So those algorithms are based on a mathematical problem that can be easily solved by a large-scale quantum computer. Yeah, so that is a problem. And so what we are doing is replacing those vulnerable parts with quantum safe algorithms. And we did not want to develop our own algorithms, so we decided to use the ones that are out there already, created by researchers, people who have been studying this for many years and creating new encryption algorithms. So there is a standardization effort by NIST, the US agency, and they have recently actually published the results that they have a few algorithms that they want to standardize already, and there are some more that are maybe going to be standardized. And what the thing is that those new algorithms, they are based on different mathematical problems that we don't know yet how to solve efficiently, even with a quantum computer.
That's an interesting point, because there's a question coming in from Anthony, which fits pretty nicely to what you just said about the mathematical problems, the new ones. So Anthony is asking, if quantum hardware isn't realistically available, then how do you test the effectiveness of an encryption scheme that you believe to be quantum secure?
Right.
And then he goes on, is there a way to virtualize quantum hardware or non-quantum hardware? How do you test it? Yeah, or is there a mathematical proof?
It is a mathematical proof, yes.
Okay.
So this is all theoretical. So the operations that you can do with a quantum computer are well known. Like the people research this properly, they know what operations can be done. And so in computer engineering terms, it would be like an instruction set on a CPU. So you have, instead of a normal CPU or a GPU, you have a different kind of chip that has a different set of instructions that you can do. And more or less, it's more complicated than that. But then from those basic units of instructions, you can build some other computations. And that is, of course, all just math, basically. And you don't need an actual physical computer to do that.
That sounds very complicated to me. So, but to wrap this up, you said the algorithms we use in the Tutanota signal adapted protocol that you build, the algorithms that we use there are also NIST finalists. But I have heard that one of these finalists has been proven to be insecure. So how did that happen?
So not a finalist, but like a few algorithms that were first
made it to the second or third round, or they have some rounds,
on
right?
The first round, definitely, yes. So they're going into the fourth round now. But on the first round, like everybody who was working on encryption algorithms that were based on some other mathematical problem than the ones we know that are vulnerable could just submit their proposals to NIST. And there was some time when everybody was reviewing them and whatnot, and some of them were found to be vulnerable to, well, not only quantum computers, but also classical computers that we have today. And that is a good thing. So they are being looked at and researched and attacked by researchers, so that in the end, we only get the really strong ones. So when we started this project, they had just entered round 2, and we selected some algorithms that had passed there. So we looked into what was there, and we found that the most performant ones and that provided the highest levels of security that would match our use case were crystals Kyber and crystals dilithium. They serve different purposes, right? So we needed these two purposes, and we selected these. And we were very excited when they did pass to round 3, and on round 3, after round 3 they were selected already to be standardized, along with 2 other digital signatures algorithms, and but only one key exchange mechanism was selected, which was Kyber, exactly the one we had chosen. And so there will be a round 4 that will select at least one more, because NIST does not want to standardize on one single mathematical problem. Like so, even if
so in case so
find
that you
out
have a
how
backup
to solve lattices.
yeah. Okay, Cool. And could you quickly also describe, we have talked about this, that we are building this for Tutanota. What is the status there of PQMail? How does it work?
So we have finished the design of the protocol, and it's out there, and we're still gathering feedback from the cryptographic community. And we have also built a prototype that works. So we are able to.
Did you already send a post-quantum encrypted message? You
Yes.
yourself? Really?
Yes.
Why didn't you send me any?
Yeah. So I would have to install a bunch of things in your computer.
Okay.
So far, it is a prototype, so it's not really very easy to work with. So, but yeah, we did manage to implement this prototype, and that is using not only these new algorithms, but also the classical algorithms. So it was very important to us that even if these new algorithms are proven to be vulnerable to either quantum computers or classical computers, that we can still rely on well-established cryptography that we have today. So,
but why is that? So you are encrypting it twice now with the old one, so to say, old ones, the classical algorithms, you named them, and the post-quantum ones. So why do you need both of them?
We need both exactly because the new algorithms are new and they're still being researched. And now that they are—
But new is better.
New is better, yeah. New is different, right? And it tries to solve and not have the same problems of the old. But new always has new problems. And so, as I said, so it's a good thing that people were looking into those new algorithms and trying to find vulnerabilities. And but that is still not enough. So that is still niche. So, but now that we have just a few algorithms that have been selected by NIST, we're going to see a lot more research go into those, trying to break those, find vulnerabilities there, and maybe improvements as well. So yeah, this is a huge step forward, this standardization.
Cool.
But still, yeah, we cannot say yet that they are well established. So that's why we want to rely also on the classical algorithms.
And are you, in the prototype, are you using the same classical algorithms that we currently use in Tutanota?
No. So in Tutanota, we are using currently RSA. And for PQMail, we opted to, as I said, use the Signal protocol or an adapted version of the Signal protocol, because that affords a bunch of additional security properties. And
which
ones? Signal protocol, perfect for secrecy. And well, that was the main one that we were after, actually. And that is kind of in the theme of why we're doing this now, because we want messages to be confidential forever. So yeah, we decided to use the Signal protocol, and that uses some different algorithms. So namely for public encryption, it uses elliptical curve Diffie-Hellman, so ECDH.
And I've heard a rumor that it's also more performant.
It is true, yeah.
Meaning we're going to be even faster.
Yeah, so it is it is more performant, but yeah, bear in mind that we have also the post-quantum elements there, so that holds us back a little bit. However, we found that even then we are more performant than the current RSA encryption that we have.
Cool. There's another question from the audience, a bit unrelated, but still. So someone is asking, and please do ask to put more questions in the Q&A. We're really curious to hear your thoughts on this. Also comments, it doesn't have to be questions. So for Tutanota, would it not be better to use 2FA to eliminate the risks from using passwords, or perhaps a combo of quantum safe with 2FA? I'm not sure. Does this question imply that we should enforce 2FA, second factor authentication? Vitor, what do you think?
I'm not sure I understand the question, but well, if we should force 2FA, I don't think that would work very well, because you need, well, a second factor. You need an additional thing, and we strongly encourage it. And you can use security keys, which is the best thing you can use for second factor on the desktop clients and web clients. Still to come.
Which is a key like this, right?
Yes, more like this.
But this is unrelated. Two-factor authentication and encryption it got nothing to do with each other.
No,
right?
it just protects login. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There's another question from Peter. He asks, which symmetric encryption do you use? As far as I know, there is no special symmetric cipher which can be counted as truly post-quantum, besides AES, of course.
Yeah, so there is no special attack on symmetric encryption still that is known for quantum computers. So Shor's algorithm breaks.
Quick stop here. Sorry.
Yeah.
Symmetric encryption is what? Like when we encrypt data in Tutanota, but not when we encrypt emails between two people, right?
It's a little bit more complicated than that.
Sorry.
No problem. But it is complicated. It's complicated. So symmetric encryption means that you only have one key, right? So if I want to send you some data that is encrypted with symmetric encryption, first we need to agree on a key. And so we meet maybe in person and generate a key, and then I have it and you have it. And I use this key to encrypt the data and send it to you, and you can use that same key to decrypt it, right? This is symmetric. Asymmetric encryption, or public key encryption, as it's also sometimes called, works differently. So you have each participant would have a pair of keys, and one of them being the private key and the other the public key. And the public key is public. You can give it to all your friends. And so if you have a public key, you have a key pair, you can give me the public key. And then if I want to send you a secret message, I use your public key to encrypt the content and send it to you. And you can decrypt using your private key. And nobody can decrypt that having your public key only, right? So that wouldn't be very effective. So you do need the private key to decrypt. So that is asymmetric encryption. And
now back to the question. It was, which symmetric encryption do you use? Yeah. Should I repeat it, or do you still have it in mind?
I still have it. Right.
Okay, perfect.
So, yeah. So the reason of the question was that, yeah, if there aren't there are no quantum safe symmetric encryption, right? Algorithms. That is because the ones we already have are already quantum safe. So there is no known.
So there's no research going into that. That's what. Or
there is probably some researcher out there trying to find an attack on AES with quantum computers, probably. But one thing we do know is that in general, some computations can be easier. So while today we have 128 128-bit keys that are very secure, like so AES was standardized in this form, like 128 is the minimum you need, and that is very secure. That is extremely secure. And then you have 192, and then nobody uses that, and then you use 256. That is just bonkers and absolutely impossible to break, right? And but that is an argument to be made that AES 128 will be feasibly breakable with a quantum computer, just because of the sheer computation power that, and some smart algorithms. I forget the name, but yeah, so it is recommended that we start using AES 256 right now. And so to answer the question, the direct question now, what we are currently using in Tutanota is AES 128 bits. And of course, in the PQMA project, we are using AES 256.
Cool. And back to the asymmetric algorithms which are being researched. This is the main part of PQML, and also the NIST research and all of this, because it's much more difficult to find the perfect algorithm for that, because there's no standard yet. I think, did I get this right so far?
Yes.
Perfect. So back to these algorithms, what are you planning to do if the algorithms you now selected for PQML do turn out to be breakable? By that, I mean, what do we do if research shows that these algorithms could be broken, are not secure? What will we do then? Can we do anything?
Right. So one nice thing about this standardization process is that they defined a very common, well, not just a common API that all the algorithms would have to satisfy. So a bunch of criteria. So they are more or less the same, or they can be used on more or less in the same way. So that allowed us to design the protocol to easily replace algorithms in case that would turn out to be necessary, right? Because again, they're all new, and they at any point in time we can discover that, oh no, somebody broke that. Yep. So we, from the get-go, we already knew that the algorithms would need to be replaceable. So that's what we designed. So what happens in practice is that, so for example, if we have released the protocol and we're using that in production, and then an attack is shown to be possible in one of those algorithms. What happens is that all those communications are still secure in the classical sense because of all the rest of signal, the Diffie-Hellman key exchange, and all the symmetric encryption that happens there. So all that is still safe, and that allows us some time to adapt the protocol and release a new version and a new infrastructure, basically, to use the protocol with a different post-quantum algorithm.
Yeah, that's good to know. Everyone, I'm coming to the end of my questions. I have two more for you, Vitor, two very interesting ones. But right. If you also want to ask your questions, this is a little heads up. There's maybe only 10 minutes left, so please put your questions in the Q&A now. And yeah, one of a personal interest of mine is, as I said, I'm not technical, but Vitor, you definitely are. I'm pretty impressed at what you're explaining here. I think you could give lectures at university. So is there anything for you as a technical person that fascinates you about quantum computing and quantum secure encryption?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, those are two very different things, right? So,
See, to me, they are not. Sorry.
So for the first part, what fascinates me about quantum computers or quantum computing is just how I think it's amazing and mind-blowing that we as humanity, as a species, learned how to control all that weird and unintuitive way that matter works, like the physics of quantum mechanics is so it is very weird, and we figured out how to control that to do some very predictable operations, and that will yield useful results to us. And so that is magic to me.
So you're talking about the hardware part?
Yes, and well, hardware and the design, the research, yeah. So that that is amazing. And the other part of your question, so about quantum safe cryptography. So when we talk about quantum safe, we're not talking about using quantum computers to encrypt things. We're talking about things that we can use in the computers we have today that cannot be broken by a quantum computer that some attacker has, right? And that is a very different topic, but it's just as fascinating. So encryption at its heart is basically just math problems and riddles, right? And we have been basing most of our encryption, or the public key encryption, on some very specific problem, like the factorization, basically, or the discrete logarithm problem. And that is just one difficult problem in math. And what all these other algorithms are doing is leveraging other very difficult problems in math. And by very difficult, I don't mean that they are difficult to solve. I mean that they are basically operations to solve. There are things that you can solve one way very easily and the other way not very easily. And by not very easily, I mean it takes a lot of operations. It's not that you have to think a lot, it's just that you have to calculate a lot. So that is the basis of cryptography as we have it today. And the fact that they're using different mathematical problems and looking for new mathematical problems to develop new algorithms, I think that's pretty cool.
Nice. There's one question that's also a nice one for myself, obviously. So Rebecca's asking, where can we as individuals go to learn more about encryption, possibly for newbies like myself? Is there a particular resource that can be recommended?
Oof.
Could you recommend anything off your head? I know there's a lot on our website, of course, on the blog, but mostly that's written, if it's written by me, then it's definitely for newbies. But there's also some posts from the developers.
Yeah, so I guess it depends on the perspective you're looking for. If it's from the user perspective, like how can I learn more about cryptography so that I can use it more effectively and use it to protect myself, then there are lots of resources. So on our website, as you said, and I don't know, I can think of one single place. There's a plethora of resources on the internet.
Yeah. Yeah, probably if you do a thorough search on the web, like on DuckDuckGo, for instance, you would probably find enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're coming at it with the perspective of I want to do this, I want to be one of the people that creates this, that does go and finds new algorithms, and then that is a lot harder. Well, one nice place to start is, I guess, cryptographic algorithms by Bruce Schneier. It's a book. You can, it's a classical.
Yeah, his blog is pretty interesting in general, also about vulnerabilities and stuff. It's pretty interesting.
That's true. Bruce Schneier's blog is very, very cool. You can, there are some MOOCs, is that what you call them? A massive open online courses, like from those platforms like Coursera or edX or something that focused on cryptography. And there was one that was hosted by Dan Boney. I don't know how to pronounce his name. This is a very well-known cryptographer. So then you would be in very good hands, I'd say. Yeah, there are resources to learn online. Yeah.
There's some feedback, first of all, someone saying amazing session. Thank you very much. And then there's another question as well. Could quantum two-dimensional discrete time random walks be used for pseudo-random generators to get quantum cryptanalysis resistant encryption? Furthermore, could these quantum walks be simulated on classical computers, and how powerful would the said classical computers need to be? Would you like me to repeat that? I didn't understand a word of it.
I did not understand any word of that either. I think that should be a question for those researchers developing those algorithms.
Yeah. Now I feel a bit better, Vitor, because I thought, oh my God, if he knows that as well, then I'm so stupid. So you would not want me to repeat it. You are saying you need to research it. Yeah.
No.
This is out of our scope, unfortunately. Yeah. And there's another one, very practical one. Rebecca again is asking, what should we be worried about? What actions can we take to protect ourselves and our future from these future risks? Maybe I'll try that one. Because I try to explain this a bit with the example of, just a normal you and me person living your usual life with your maybe some privacy secrets, but nothing special, or with being a political activist. So if you're a normal person, there's no need really to worry about this today. And as you will see from this discussion and from our research, there's also happening a lot to update the encryption to make this quantum secure for the future. So I'm pretty optimistic then in, I don't know, 1 or 2 years, Tutanota will be quantum safe. Vitor, what are your thoughts? 1, 2 years, 3 years? It's always hard to say, but at some point Tutanota will be quantum safe, and then there's nothing that you need to do than just use the tools that do the encryption right and protect your data. As Vitor said, Signal is also a very good option. They will probably also be quantum secure at some point. So this would be the recommendation for the average normal citizen. Of course, if you're a political activist, then there's much more you need to be aware of and you need to look into, and that would again require a lot of research online. Because then there's also the question about how to stay anonymous, not just encrypt your data, and this is much more difficult.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I would add, for the common person, also bug your lawmakers and don't let them create anti-encryption laws.
Yeah. That's very important. Good point, Vitor. Yeah. We are trying that as well as a company, to make our voice heard, to influence politicians. But of course, the more we are, the more who speak up, the bigger the pressure gets on the politicians. So that's very important. It's a good point. And then I'm coming to my final question. So you still have a few minutes to put your questions in the chat if you also have another one. So my final question is, of course, Vitor, can you give us some outlook for PQ Mail, for the prototype? What is going to happen next? Do you have any plans on that?
Yeah, so what's going to happen next is we are doing more research. So the message exchange part is mostly solved. So we are still getting feedback from the cryptographic community. But what we are working on now is on secure storage, because Signal is a stateful protocol, and we, of course, inherited that in our protocol.
What is a stateful protocol? So
it means that you have to store state somewhere. So with very basic RSA encryption, for example, if I have your private key, I can send you a message and then can send you another without having any other thing other than your private key, and you can read those messages independently. So if you have your private key and you get one message, you can read it. If you get another message, you can read it, and you don't have anything, you don't need anything separate. With Signal, in order to afford those additional security properties that they afford, you have to keep track of a few things, and let's call them sessions, right? So when we establish communication, we establish a session, and I send a message to you. The next message that I send to you will be ideally in the same session, so we don't have to start a new one. And as I write new messages, I am changing that session. And when I write, every time I write the next message, I have to use the latest state. And then every time I write one, it changes again. And then at the same time, when you receive my messages and decrypt them, you have to update your state as well in order to be able to read the next messages. What happens if I write two messages using the same state is that when you get the first one, that's okay. When you get the second one, something is wrong, right? You're going to quickly detect that something is wrong. If you did everything the way Signal recommends, then you won't even be able to read that message.
Okay.
Yeah, but you can definitely tell that something was wrong. And yeah, that's what we mean by state. And this state is when you have Signal, for example, is stored in your phone. But if you have, for example, a desktop client connected to your phone, linked to your phone, as they say, what you actually have is two devices. So you exist twice, so to say. So when you send me a message,
that would be nice, existing twice.
you send that message to my desktop client and to my phone. And those are two different entities that have separate keys and have separate states. Yeah, so, but that doesn't really work well with webmail, right? So when you're using email, you need to just be able to go to a browser and log in and see all your old emails, all your new emails, and be able to decrypt them and send emails, right? But where does your state come from? So if you're using a new web browser or a private window, so there's nothing in there. And so you wouldn't be able to read old messages. So what we decided to do is to store state on the server side. But that is a problem because as soon as we have control of the state, there's a number of attacks that we could do on the users, and that is not good. That is not how end-to-end encryption should work. So Of course, first thing we can do is store it encrypted in the same way that we store other keys of the user, like based on with a key based on the user's password, so we can't see anything. But even if we can't see, even if we can't read those contents and know what they are, we can still manipulate them. We can do replay attacks. We can do some substitutions. We can withhold things. So what the work we are doing right now is on how to prevent that, how to empower users to trust, to be able to trust, or not really trust, just verify that we did not mess with their data, with their state, right? Yeah, so that is the work that we're doing, and it's very hard, but also very exciting.
Yeah, it's amazing. It sounds very, very complicated. It's completely over my head, but yeah, I've definitely learned something today. I hope all of you did as well. I guess, Vitor, we have explained everything we can. I mean, you have explained much more I ever could have, but thank you so much. The thank yous are also coming in the Q&A. People are really happy. I don't know if you're looking at it, because it was my part reading the questions. Yeah, but yeah, check them out. Thanks everyone for joining us today. It's been a very nice webinar. It's been a pleasure. And yeah, we hope to see you. We hope to see you around next time. Thank you, Vitor. Bye.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Bye.